The Enchanted Dances, an original fairy tale by aartadventure. Once upon a time, in the magical kingdom of Midair, lived young Princess Polaris. Blessed with grace and poise, Polaris soon became known throughout the kingdom for her ballet performances. Each solstice, she would take to the castle courtyard and freely entertain nobles and peasants alike for the entire evening. Every season brought a dance more spectacular than the last, and by her 17th year, the town was flooded with travellers from nearby kingdoms, all eager to view the magical ballet performance of Princess Polaris. As her 18th birthday and the autumnal solstice approached, Polaris learned that every single kingdom in the empire would be sending all of their unwed princes to attend her upcoming dance. Nervous and excited, Polaris began to sneak out each evening to the nearby forest, where she was sure no one would spy on her and ruin the dance. Here, she would practice new and astonishing moves with which she hoped to win the heart of her true love. The final eve before the performance was a new moon, and despite having almost no light to guide her, save that of her namesake star, Polaris ventured out again to practice her final moves. In a daring spectacle, Polaris intended to climb the castle walls with a hidden bolt of almost transparent silk. She would then leap off in a twisting flourish, as if having taken a deadly fall, only to be safely caught at the last moment by her sheer silks. This would conclude her special dance to celebrate both the arrival of her 18th birthday and the autumnal equinox. To practice her risky finale, Polaris climbed the branch of a sturdy oak tree. Tying the silks securely, she leapt and twisted down in the dim light. However, unbeknownst to Polaris, the forest witch was spying on her behind a large bush. At first, the witch thought to capture the princess, perhaps as a dark sacrifice, or possibly she could be ransomed for some expensive spell components. But as the witch watched the princess, she too was taken by the beautiful dance, just like everyone else. Meanwhile, Polaris climbed up the tree to practice yet again. But this time, the witch muttered an incantation and moved her aged hands to form ancient sigils in the night air. Her magics flared, loosening the bolt of silk from the tree branch just as Polaris leapt. The fabric slipped free and Polaris crashed down in a rush, her legs snapping like a branch as the bone shattered instantly. Whimpering in pain, Polaris called for help. Biding her time, the witch cast an illusion, forming a kindly face of a peasant lady before finally gliding towards the young princess. "Please, is anyone there?" Polaris sobbed.
"Oh my, what happened to you, dearie?"
the witch asked as she approached.
"Oh, thank goodness. Please fetch help. I've fallen badly. I fear my leg is broken. The king and queen will grant you any favor for your help." "Is that so? Well, truth told, I live a simple life with little need for most things. However, I happened to see you dancing a moment ago, and I know a little healing magic. If I heal your leg, would you agree to stay and dance for me?" "Oh yes, of course. Please heal me if you're able." "Say you wish it. Say you wish to stay and dance for Granny Ceres in return for your bones and body mended as new,"
the witch instructed.
"I, Princess Polaris of Kingdom Midair, do solemnly vow and wish to stay and dance for Granny Ceres in return for mended bones and body."
Polaris spoke, the pain now so overwhelming. Instantly, the the forest flared with light, and before she could blink, Polaris felt no pain. Looking down, her leg was like new.
"Oh, thank you, Granny Ceres. What fortune I had to meet you here."
"If you say so, dearie,"
the witch replied.
"Now, dance your way to my hidden chateau."
And in that moment, the silks that had caused her fall magically came to life, wrapping around Polaris and forcing her limbs to move and flow into a magical dance. The witch cackled and clapped with delight as Polaris gasped in shock. Before Polaris could even let out a scream, though, they both disappeared into the dark forest. The day of the solstice dance came and went, but Polaris was nowhere to be found. The kingdom was searched far and wide by all, especially the young princes who had travelled so very far to meet and win the heart of the young and talented maiden. But as the days turned into weeks, one by one, the princes began to give up and return to their homelands. All, that is, save the coincidentally handsome, talented, intelligent, and incredibly charming Prince Castor. He alone continued the search. Meanwhile, in the witch's chateau, Polaris would dance night after night. Each day she would beg to be released, but the witch would remind her that she had agreed of her own free will to stay and dance. Ensnared by the magic silks, Polaris was dragged back inside each time she would take a step out of the chateau. Exactly 1 year after Polaris had disappeared, Prince Castor ventured deeper into the forest than he ever had before. By chance, he came across the witch, and by fortune, during a moment when the witch was distracted. Sensing her dark energies, he remained hidden and silent as the witch carefully picked berries for a potion. Using his warrior training, he followed quietly after the witch as she returned to the chateau using a hidden path that is only ever revealed when she wishes it to be. As soon as the shadow came into view, the prince caught sight of Polaris. She stood in the doorway and, like every other day, she begged the witch,
"Please, allow me to return home."
"You agreed to stay and dance for me,"
replied the witch.
"So stay you will."
Polaris begged,
"Is there no escape? Will I dance here until I die?"
The witch replied,
"You will stay until the day you dance with your true love. Only then will you be set free."
And with that the witch cackled softly and hobbled inside. Overhearing the witch, Prince Castor remained hidden outside the chateau until that evening. Then, as soon as he saw Polaris begin to dance through the window, he rushed inside and leapt into the air with the graceful movements of a trained ballet dancer, which just happened to be one of the many talents he was remarkably skilled at. Landing beside Polaris, Prince Castor took her silk-bound hand into his and began to lead her in a magical ballet. The moment the dance began, the silks that were bound tightly to Polaris began to shift, half of them slipping away from her and then flowing onto the body of Prince Castor. Magical stars began to glitter and sparkle from each of their limbs as they danced together. The witch looked up from her knitting and howled in dismay, but it was too late even for her magics. She watched in horror as the silks evaporated in a magical whirlwind of glowing gold and silver stars. Finally freed, Princess Polaris grabbed the hand of Prince Castor and together they fled the witch's chateau. They ran all the way back to Kingdom Midair, hand in hand, where they then lived happily ever after. I hope you enjoyed this enchanted fairy tale for day 7 of Inktober 2019. If you did, don't forget to please hit like, and also subscribe if you're new here. Welcome if you're new. Feel free to leave me a comment down below to let me know what you think of these pieces of art and the fairy tale. The portrait of Princess Polaris was done last year during Inktober 2018, and that inspired me to do a matching portrait of Prince Castor for the prompt this year in 2019. And if you'd like to see the original, I'll leave a card up and I'll put a link at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon for another art adventure. Take care.